This is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to cook one of my favorite smoked foods. And technically it's not really cooking, it's really just smoking, and even more so cold smoking. Now, that favorite food is cheese. I have a pan full of different cheeses here that I'm going to try on the smoker. The new one that I'm going to put on there, which is probably the lowest temperature, is Havarti dill. I love this, and I'm anxious to see exactly how it tastes once it's smoked. But I won't be able to try it for more than a week. I don't know if I can wait that long. So first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna get the cheese on there, because it's gonna be a little bit difficult to deal with once the smoke is running. Now, I started a smoke tray and I set that to the side so it's far enough away from me that I'm not going to get smoked out while I'm doing this. If you want to see tips and tricks on pellet smoke trays, check this video out here and it'll show you how I light them and how I use them. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these grill mats on here. Now I'm going to use the upper shelf today, and I'm going to set these right on here, and then we'll place the cheese on there and space it out just a little bit. I lowered the rack as low as I could, and I did test the smoke flow already, and I was very pleased with how it flowed along. I have my probe thermometer on, and it's reading 45 degrees right here, which is pretty much the outdoor temperature. So if it's hot where you are, I would suggest doing this at night or overnight. And if you're not sure about how many pellets to go under, and then you can add more pellets on your next smoke, because bitter cheese is not good. And also, if it is a little bitter, rest it for an additional week and that'll mellow it out a little bit too. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut all those cheeses open and place them on the grill mats. So I got down to the last package and I realized we didn't really talk about this cheese. So this is just a national brand cheese here, and it is an 8-ounce block. Now, if you don't have these available or you can't find a good deal on them, I wait until they go on sale and then I buy them. And I just buy a bunch of them and throw them in the bottom of my fridge until I'm ready to smoke them. And they're really budget friendly, and you don't have to process them. If you buy a large piece of cheese, then I recommend you cut them in about the same size. So what we're looking at is a piece that when sliced up, it'll fit on my favorite cracker, which is a club cracker. And it just works really well. And even to just eat it as a bite, it makes a nice little piece that fits well. And then this package is particularly nice because it's got the pull string. So I just go ahead and open them up, pull them out, and then you can see here that I have them all arranged sideways here. And typically what I want to do is I want to arrange them so there's smoke flow will go between them. Now, it's only a little bit more than a ½ an inch between each one, which is great. With dense smoke and good flow, that'll be perfect. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove the ashtray. Now, basically, I already tried to clean it up a little bit, so I emptied the ashes. I kind of stirred it around a little bit to get all the ashes out of the burning area. And then, even after I did that, when I pulled it back out again, more ashes fell. So here's the whole thing, and we're just going to take it and set it aside. We're not going to need it today. And you can see the open area in here, and if you look closely, you might even be able to see some ashes down there. And as you pull it out, the ashes will just fall from up above. So I don't think there's any real solution to that. When it's completely cold, you can put a vacuum in there or a small blower. I would use a hairdryer out here. And then you can just blow the ashes out of there once they build up too much. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab that pre-lit smoke tray over there, and I'll be right back. So here I have the pellet smoke tray, and I'm going to show you a close-up of it. Now this is roughly about 6 hours worth of pellets, which is way more than I want to hit this with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a timer today, and I'm going to come out and pull this out and open the lid, let all the smoke go, and then close the lid and let them rest until the smoke gets a chance to set in. If you're doing this overnight, just fill this first column and let it go like that. And when you wake up in the morning, it should be perfect. But remember, less is more on your first couple of tries. So don't overdo it, because I don't want you to be unhappy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of foil underneath this, just because sometimes it does get a little warm below it and above it. Above it is the burning area, so I don't think that makes any difference. And then we'll go ahead and set this down here like this. And this is so we can pull the ashes out without adding to the mess that's already there. I'm going to set this on there on the edge, and then I'm going to just slide it in there nice and slow. I'm going to kind of push it back as far as I can get it without getting all the way to the back. I want it kind of pretty much in the middle. If you're in a windy area, you'll want to put something in front of this, like you could put a brick. You don't want to block it completely, but you want to reduce the airflow. So even a piece of plywood might work fine, to where you just lean it up against it from whichever way the air is coming. So if the wind is coming from that direction, then you'll put a piece of plywood here, and vice versa if the wind is coming from this direction. It's really a mild day here on the creek, so we don't have a lot of wind this morning. Typically, it will pick up later in the day, and I'll just keep an eye on it. So already here, we're getting smoke flow from that area right up into the main chamber. And when I did my test on this, I was very pleased with how well the smoke flowed. So let's go ahead and close this and watch that smoke start coming out. Now, on a normal cheese, my danger zone is about 80 degrees, because I don't want anything to melt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch this probe temperature I have set up right here. Currently, I just closed the lid and it's 46 degrees, and I'm going to keep an eye on that. And if it gets up to 80, I'll vent it. But I have a feeling that with as cold as it is outside and how far away we were able to get the pellet tray, I don't think we're going to have any problems today maintaining a nice, easy temperature. Now, I'm looking down here at the bottom, and I'm going to show you the close-up, and you can see some of the smoke is escaping. If you're not getting enough smoke to come through the chimney, then you might want to also consider that idea of putting a piece of plywood in front of it, or even partially blocking it somehow. Even a sheet of tinfoil on a cooling rack would work really well, and you can kind of drape it over it to create kind of like a door effect. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that and give you an example of that. So I'll be right back. So what I have here is one of my budget-friendly cooling racks, and then I have just one of the pop-up pieces of tinfoil. This one happens to be brand name, but usually I don't buy brand name. I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to fold it over to where it's about 1/3 over, just enough to make sure that it stays in place. And I'm going to kind of leave this a little loose almost, because I want it to drape up against that. I'm not trying to block all the airflow. We're just trying to reduce it a little bit. And just like that, we still have gaps on both sides. And I'm going to move this so you can see this side too. Got gaps on both sides, and it looks like we're getting a little bit of wind going, so I'll move it to that side a little bit, and it should keep burning. If you block it off completely, what will happen is your pellet smoke tray will actually go out. So we don't want to do that. We just want to reduce the influence of wind and kind of encourage it to go up. So let's take a look up here at the top, and let's see if we can get a close-up of that. Look at that smoke come out. It's coming out a little bit around the door too, but I think what will happen is when the smoke flow actually increases a little bit, it'll move through there a lot smoother. Also, if you're worried about it not moving through smooth enough, you can take the lid off completely as long as you're underneath a cover. No reason that you need to worry about that at all. The main function of this is to keep liquid out. I do have it open to maximum, so I put it up there and gave it a half a turn, and that's it. So there's as much space up there as possible. And for something like this, that's what I would do. And actually for most of my cooking, I would prefer to leave it open as wide as possible. So we're gonna go ahead and let this run. That'll be 1 second for you and 4 hours for me. See you then. So we are all done. The smoke has cleared, and the pellet tray ended up running almost exactly 4 hours. The smoke came out a little thicker than what I was really planning for. So you might fill that pellet tray like 2/3 full or whatever. This brand is a little bit taller than the previous one that I used. I used to use an Amazing Smoke tray, and this one is a kind of a generic knockoff. You'll find that link below. It works great, but you don't need to fill it all the way to the top. So let's go ahead and take that out real quick. So the foil worked great to keep the smoke in there and flowing well. Pull that back. Not very much ash comes through there at all, so it's pretty much mostly contained in here, but you'll see a little bit down here in the tin foil. I'm going to set that right there for now, and then I'll put it in the fire pit when we're done here. The internal temperature is 54 degrees, which is pretty much the outside temperature. Look at that. You can tell, especially with the Swiss, you can see how it has that tint all the way through it. And this is a pepper jack there. And that, of course, right there is the dill Havarti. I'm going to move that to the side so you can get a little bit better look at that Swiss right there. So now that it's done and had about an hour to rest without smoke on it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to package that up in some Ziploc baggies. So let's take a break and I'll be right back. So I brought out 2 Ziploc baggies and a cookie sheet just to set everything on, just to keep it nice and managed. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open one of these up, and I'm going to put all the cheddar in one bag. So I have 6 blocks of cheddar in there, just like that. And I think, just for good measure, I think I'm going to set the dill right in here in the top. Now, I'm going to zip it halfway closed, and then I'm simply going to blow it. And it's more like a balloon than anything else. So, full of air there, but completely sealed. A lot of times what I'll do is I will use a straw. I do that sometimes when I want to take air out, is I'll use a straw in there and pull air out if I don't want to pull a vacuum sealer out for one reason or another. You can't really vacuum seal a Ziploc baggie anyway, but it's really easy to pull all the air out of something and then put it in the sous vide, and then there's basically, you'll get 1 or 2 little bubbles near the top. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of this, which is 7 blocks. So we've got 7 in there, and we'll have 7 in here. Before I go any further, I want to take a moment to point this out. If you look at these blocks, and I don't know how close you can see them, but if you look at them, they are perfectly formed. They have not melted at all, which is great, which means that we had a pretty low temperature and there's a lot of smoke that hit them. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in the very back of my fridge and try to keep it as loose as possible, just like that, and let it sit there for at least a week. Now, I did an experiment where I let some of this cheese sit in there for 8 months, and I got to tell you that that is the best smoked cheddar that I'd ever had. The longer the cheddar sits in there, the better it gets. Now, obviously, you'll have to make sure that there's no moisture in there. I took it, and after the curing time of a week, I shrink wrapped it really, really tight, so that way there was no air and no moisture either. I made sure it was completely dry, and then I popped it in the back of the fridge, and it was just fine. As far as I know, it probably would have been fine for another 3 months, but I can't say for sure because I ate it all. It was really good. So I decided that I wanted to go just a little bit more in detail with the cheese, and let's start with, it's been a week. So it's been a week since I smoked the cheese, and here are the bags of cheese that I have, and here are a couple of blocks of the cheddar. So let's talk about the bags first. If you can see the bags, you can see that there's humidity. Before I do anything with the cheese, I will take it out of the bags and let it dry a little bit. I usually just place it on a large cutting board on my kitchen counter sideways, let it dry, with a simple paper towel and leave it sitting there for a good 30 to 40 minutes. Now, it's going to dry up a little bit on the outside edges and it'll get a little bit of, I don't know if you'd say hardness to it, but just build up a little bit of surface on the outside edge, which is exactly what we want, and we want to make sure that it's extremely dry. Let's go ahead and set this one to the side, and let's take out 2 blocks out of here. First, we have one of the cheddars. I'll go ahead and I'll blot it dry. And then we have my new favorite regular cheese, which is a dill Havarti. And this is the first time I've smoked this, so we're going to see how it goes. We don't want to like rub it. We just want to make sure that there's no large pools of liquid on there. I'll set this aside for now, and we'll come back to that after I turn the camera off and take it all out and dry it all up. When I put it on the counter to dry, I do it just like I smoke it, just like that, in a row, and then I can come along and process it. Let's go ahead and get a little taste test here. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut into the block into the middle. The reason is the corners are going to be a little bit stronger, so normally I would eat those kind of by slicing them a little bit. Also, I want to let them rest the most amount of time if I'm concerned. I can see by looking at the cheese that it's not going to be particularly smoky. So I cut a pretty thin slice. Normally I'd go a little thicker than that, but I just want something really thin to sample. That's still really good with the smoke on there. It's pretty mild, pretty mellow smoke. I think this one with the 1 week aging is just fine. Now when I go to store this, I'm just going to push this back together like this and wrap it tightly, and it'll store just fine like that. Let's go ahead and cut the cheddar. Got a little bit of dill on there. Let's wipe that off. Okay, so that's about a normal thickness slice for me. I tend to keep it pretty much like this, and then I will go with it straight on a cracker, and I'll take some hard salami and cut it in half and put that on there. You can completely taste the smoke on there. This is a little bit on the milder side. It could be a little smokier for me, but maybe it's perfect for you. Just a great little smoke flavor right on there, and very subtle, but definitely there. So now that we're done with that, I'll put that back together, set it off to the side. I want to show you what I do for short-term storage. I'll wrap it in plastic wrap. Now you can see inside here, I put in a piece of parchment paper just to go around it. Not on the ends, just a little short. But that'll help keep it nice and smooth. And if there is any moisture, it'll just kind of roll off of that and come out from against the cheese. Now, this is mostly for short-term storage, but you can take your cheese like this and throw it in the back of the fridge for easily a month like this without touching it again. If you seal it really well and maintain it by making sure no moisture builds up, you can keep it in your fridge for months on end. I have done a test somewhere around 8 to 9 months, and the sharp cheddar with a heavy smoke was amazing when you age it that long. Now this one here is a vacuum seal pack. This I would consider freezing if I was going for long term, but I like to avoid freezing cheese if possible. If you get your cheese really well dried and then you vacuum seal it like this, it's going to hold in your fridge for a long time without any concern at all. I don't know that it would last that long because it'd probably get eaten before the 8 to 9 months, but that's okay. Now, I took a piece of parchment paper the size of the block of the cheese and I placed it on the bottom side where the ripple is on the vacuum seal bag. And if you use a lot of vacuum seal bags, you'll know that one side is a smooth side and the other side is the ripple side. And the ripple side is so that way the air can be sucked out without causing any air pockets. Now this is a pretty nice package, and after I'm done with it, I always trim up the edges a little bit because there's usually a pretty long little gap there just to make it look convenient and nice. This makes a really nice gift if you're putting together a Christmas basket or some other gift basket. These will go really well. Make sure that you pre-age it before you give it to somebody because it's really hard to explain to them, oh yeah, don't eat this for a week. But age it for a couple of weeks, then give it to them, and it'll be perfect. So I think that pretty much covers the cheese from this batch, and I gotta say that that was super easy. It was really easy just to throw the pellet tray right in the bottom, and I put in tinfoil in the bottom. I wouldn't really bother with that if I was you, because after using this smoker a bunch of times, I've realized that a lot of ashes just end up down at the bottom, and it's just too much bother to even be concerned about getting a few ashes on the ground. I will basically take a blower or a blow dryer, which I keep one around here for stoking some of my charcoal fires, and just blow it right out and be done with those ashes. So that pretty much covers everything. If you saw anything in the video that you like the Victorinox knives, there'll be links down in the description below. Those are affiliate links, so I will make a profit from those, but they won't cost you anything extra. And as soon as the Oklahoma Joe Tahoma smoker comes up on Amazon, I will include a link there. For now, I have a link for where I actually bought this one, and that is not an affiliate link, but I'd really like you to be able to check it out. So thanks again for watching, and have a great day.